This hearing of the Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture and Research regarding a presentation by National 4-H Conference participants concerning the future of agriculture in the United States will come to order. I'd like to, before we go into opening statements, advise all members here that a series of votes will be called very shortly, possibly around 1 rather than 1:20. So hopefully we'll get through some opening statements, and if we have to break, that actually may be maybe done much more quickly than what I initially envisioned when I spoke with many of you in the audience earlier. Excuse me. I'll go ahead and commence with opening statement myself. And good afternoon and welcome to our first hearing of the Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture and Research. As policymakers, this is a great opportunity to hear from future leaders that are here today who are participating in the National 4-H Conference. Again, thank you all for being here with us today to discuss how the future of agriculture can be sustained through enhancing the rural-urban coalition. Here in the Ag Committee, we saw just how challenging it was to enact this most recent Farm Bill. If we do not mend the divide between rural and urban areas and foster a more widespread understanding of the food and fiber industries and the impact that they have on everyday life, it is likely we may face the same challenges enacting future farm bills. This committee strives to promote policies that will protect and increase access to safe and affordable food, but has encountered opposition from organizations and individuals who do not see the need for continued federal involvement. That is why strengthening the relationship between rural and urban communities is critical to addressing the long-term challenges we face in production agriculture. Today's hearing is the first in a series that will highlight extension and research programs which support the enhancement of a rural-urban coalition, and it is fitting for our introductory hearing. We have 17 distinguished delegates from the National 4-H Conference with us. Since its inception, 4-H has been a model for bridging the gap between the rural and urban communities, and since 1890, 4-H has brought together youth from various backgrounds to help them better understand the ag industry and the use of our natural resources. Through exposure to ag education, we can develop a culture of agriculture advocacy in today's youth and grow this rural-urban relationship. And for the past several years, youth participants in the National 4-H Conference have met with members of Congress and have made presentations to federal agencies and the Ag Committee staffs. Today, the participants will initiate what will be an ongoing discussion regarding the challenges associated with food and fiber production, enhancing global food security, and how these challenges affect the future of agriculture. In addition to our 4-H delegates, we are honored to have Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, Krista Harden, join us in offering her opening remarks. While the committee is aware of the challenges that we face will not be resolved overnight, we believe it is vital to the future success of ag to continue this conversation today in a bipartisan way. And in that vein, I now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Delbene, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. This is the first subcommittee hearing that we've held in this Congress, and it also means it's my first hearing as the subcommittee ranking member. And I want to thank Chairman Davis for his leadership of the subcommittee, and want to especially thank him for reaching out very early in this Congress to discuss our mutual priorities and how we can work together. And I look forward to working with him on policies to examine advancements and issues in biotechnology, supporting critical research, and providing support and stability for our horticulture industry. So thank you for all your work. Today's hearing is an important one, and I'm pleased that so many young people are here today who are involved and committed to agriculture. We're often reminded that the average age of a farmer is somewhere in the 50s, but we don't always hear about the great number of youth who are involved. And in my district and across the country, many farms are second, third, and fourth generation. So it's critical that we continue to make transitioning a farm from one family member to another as easy as possible, as well as support policies that help pave the way for the next generation of farmers. The folks in this committee room know all too well that there's a disconnect at times between areas that have agriculture and those that don't. We can all agree that passing the 2014 Farm Bill was no easy task, in part because many people around the country don't understand what goes into agriculture or what makes up the programs that support a vibrant and healthy food supply. We need to do a better job of educating people on the importance of agriculture and continue to build rural and urban coalitions so that people's understanding of food extends beyond what they see on the grocery store shelf. So great organizations like 4-H, which I participated in many years ago, I don't want to say how many, but many years ago, are an important part of bridging that divide. And I'm looking forward to the presentations that we have here today. So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you to the ranking member, too. She's been a great partner and somebody that I am looking forward to continuing to work with as we move through this Congress. And it's kind of a role reversal here. I'm usually sitting in front of our next individual, our next member who's going to offer an opening statement. So I'm waiting for him to gavel me out, but he doesn't have it. I do. So with that, I'd like to recognize Chairman of the entire House Ag Committee, Mike Conaway, for an opening statement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I just wanted to do two things. One, express my great confidence in you and the ranking member, Ms. Del Bene, that you'll lead this subcommittee to do some terrific work on behalf of the areas that you have jurisdiction over. And I've got great confidence in both your leaderships and as we move forward. Appreciate you having this hearing today. That symbiotic relationship between urban America and rural America has to be discovered by urban America. They benefit from all the hard work that production agriculture does. They don't necessarily know that yet. They will operate in their own self-interest if we explain to them that they enjoy the safest, most abundant, and cheapest food and fiber supply of any developed country in the world based on the hard work, sweat equity, risk-taking, and yes, the safety net that the American taxpayer provides for production agriculture. So it's a great story to tell. We need to tell it often. I appreciate you having this hearing today to start that process of telling that, because the next farm bill will be difficult to pass, and urban America has to know why it's important to them that we get the production safety net correct as we move forward, that we can keep American ag producers in business through the lean time. So appreciate you having this hearing and look forward to testimony of witness from the USDA as well as our 17 future leaders in farm policy to have at the hearing. So with that, I'll yield back.
Thank you, Chairman Conway. The chair would request that other members submit their opening statements for the record so the witnesses may begin their testimony and to ensure that there is ample time for questions. The chair would also like to remind members that they will be recognized for questioning in order of seniority for members who are present at the start of the hearing. After that, members will be recognized in the order of their arrival, and I appreciate the members' understanding. Witnesses are reminded to limit their oral presentations to 5 minutes. All written statements will be included in the record. I would like to welcome our first witness to the table, Ms. Krista Harden, Deputy Secretary of Agriculture at the United States Department of Agriculture, based here in Washington, but originally a Georgian, as we discussed earlier. So welcome to a fellow Atlanta Braves fan. Deputy Secretary Harden, please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Del Bene, and members of the subcommittee and committee and the chairman as he leaves. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to address you today on the topic of the future of American agriculture. I'm looking forward to hearing the testimony of the 4-Hers and how we at USDA can best serve this new generation of agriculture producers. This is a special day for me personally. I was a proud member of 4-H in my home state of Georgia. My sister and I showed steers and horses, were members of the horse judging team, and participated in leadership development activities. The principles of 4-H continue to shape my life today. I worked here for this committee a long time ago as a staffer, but I have to tell you, it still feels pretty comfortable. So in many ways, I'm coming home. Under the leadership of Secretary Vilsack, I've dedicated my efforts at USDA to supporting and aligning our resources to best serve the new generation of farmers and ranchers and to create opportunities for tomorrow's leaders. Our work on new farmers is exciting, it's bipartisan, and inclusive of all the diversity in today's agriculture. New farmers are growing traditional crops and new varieties, organic produce and heirloom products. They're part of row crop farms, dairies, and community-supported agricultural programs. They raise beef, pork, and poultry, and fish on operations of all sizes. And they're everywhere, from urban New Orleans to rural Montana and even in my home state. The 2014 Farm Bill laid excellent groundwork. Thanks to your work on this committee, USDA has a comprehensive suite of programs that can support new and beginning farmers and ranchers, including veterans, first-generation farmers, those returning home to family farms, and even retirees seeking second careers. USDA has more flexible lending assistance for those who can't get it elsewhere. We have better risk management tools, ways to help support market access, opportunities to grow a farm business, and offer education, research, technical and conservation assistance to help protect the land and natural resources. I wish I had time today to go through all the new farmer work that's underway, but here are just a few highlights, and more details are included in my written testimony. Since 2009, FSA has issued approximately 93,000 direct and guaranteed operating loans and farm ownership loans to beginning farmers and ranchers. This fiscal year, FSA has lent almost $6 million to approximately 2,000 youth for projects. Since 2009, FSA has facilitated 2,300 contracts to transition over 384,000 acres of expiring Conservation Reserve Program land from retired or retiring landowners to beginning or socially disadvantaged producers for sustainable grazing or crop production. Since fiscal year 2013, the department has also made more than 500 investments in infrastructure in all parts of the supply chain for local foods. And from investments in previous farm bills, USDA has awarded more than $70 million through more than 146 grants to develop education and training programs. And to help these producers navigate and find the assistance they need, USDA has launched a website, usda.gov/newfarmers, which for the first time creates a single front door for USDA resources that can be used by new and beginning farmers. It is one of our most popular sites, which is a good indicator of the interest and the need for information. We're working to make USDA more accessible and relevant in a changing landscape. Among other things, the President's fiscal year 2016 budget request seeks to increase our outreach capacity for new and beginning farmers and ranchers. This investment would support $2 million for coordinators in key states to facilitate and guide beginning farmer outreach, provide support, and to states to facilitate and guide beginning farmer outreach for support and cross-cutting customer service. I lost my place, I'm sorry. Called Cross-Cutting Customer Service Training for USDA Employees in the Field. I bet these students will read better than I do. And enhance partnerships within regional, state, and local communities, including within the agriculture community and the lending community and others. An additional $2 million is for cooperative agreements that would leverage on financial literacy, enhance technical assistance, and provide loan support to new and beginning farmers and ranchers. We're also reviewing our statistical tools, including the census, to make sure that we're reflecting modern farm structures, including the roles that women and beginning farmers are playing in agriculture today. But even with these commitments, there's so much left to do. But the reason the effort and the investments are worth it is because of these young people in the room today and the many others like them across the country. During my travels and duties as deputy, I have met so many smart, talented young leaders. They inspire me and help me to know that our future is in good hands. For example, last year, the White House Champions of Change, titled The Future of American Agriculture, we heard from a young member of FFA in Washington State who hoped to own his own orchard one day. He shared with us his passion for agriculture and his hard work ethic that he learned from his father, a farm worker. Last year, I had the privilege to go to the Kennedy Space Center, accompanied by students from a Florida 4-H club, to see NASA and the Agricultural Research Service work to develop plants that can be grown in space. Together, we learned about biology and chemistry and physics and their applications in agriculture. There is a wide frontier for agriculture and science, and it's amazing to see that these kids can be inspired and wanting to be a part of it. In Virginia last year, I was honored to be a guest on a family farm where there were 3 generations side by side. Grandfather and father had built an excellent farming operation, including corn and soybeans, and Mom had a pick-your-own pecan grove. And one of the sons wanted to come home, but he knew he had to add more value to support his family, so he incorporated advanced technologies on their operation, creating new efficiencies, and added raising show pigs. I'm convinced that our industry will be stronger and our country better because of these young people. This next generation is so impressive. Now they're more likely to use apps in offices and text than make a phone call. So we'll have to work with them in a new way. But this is a challenge that we at USDA are more than ready to meet. I commend the committee for holding this hearing, for providing an opportunity for 4-H'ers to share their stories, their ideas, and their dreams. You're helping to make them more aware and engaged citizens. I hope you will continue to find ways to include their voice in future sessions. And I also thank you for letting me kick off this hearing. I know we will all learn from these student witnesses, and we will do our jobs better because of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your opening statement. Thank you for being here, Secretary. And members are advised that a series of votes have been called, and I anticipate this series of votes will last probably at least another 15 minutes. I would ask that members return to the hearing as quickly as possible from voting. This hearing will stand in recess, subject to the call of the chair. First chairman mistake, turn the mic on. I told you it was the first hearing, so we're bound to make mistakes. I'd like to welcome the second panel, the participants in the National 4-H Conference. And before we get started with the 4-H panel, I want to extend a special welcome to my constituent, Jill Parent of Normal, Illinois. Jill has had to put up with me twice now in multiple weeks, as I visited her school at Normal West Community High School in Normal, Illinois, just a few weeks ago. So, Jill, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve you in Central Illinois. And Jill is a 10-year member of 4-H and has received the 4-H Premier Leadership Citizenship Professionalism Award. And yes, Jim, out of my district. Yeah. Not only is she a future leader, she's leading in our community right in Central Illinois right now. Thanks for being here today, Jill. I'd like each of you to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and how long you've been in 4-H. We're ready to hear your presentation.
Hi, I'm Harley Rogers. I'm a 10-year 4-H'er from Hamilton, Texas. I've grown up on a ranch my whole life, and I've been showing cattle since I was 7 years old. The beef cattle industry is something that I'm very passionate about. A few years ago, my siblings and I decided that we wanted to start a grass-fed beef business to meet the consumer demand. Grass-fed beef is something that's very popular right now in the urban area, and I started marketing the beef in farm-to-table markets in Austin and Dallas area. I was constantly being asked questions about the beef and the hormones and the additives that are added into it. And one lady named Constance was very concerned about my beef, and so I offered her to come and view my operation in Hamilton, Texas. She drove to Hamilton, Texas in her little Mercedes-Benz. I took her to my ranch and showed her my cattle, all my cattle in my everyday routine. She was so impressed, and as a result, I gained this friendship. She would come to my stock shows and follow me around, and I would show her what we do. She would text me all the time with questions. Constance told her neighbors in Fort Worth about me, and this proved to me that I have gained the trust of the consumer. And that's something that's very important to me, is building the gap between the producer and the consumer. I realize that this is just a small step in building the bridge between the consumer and producer while getting the word about where the beef comes from. But I believe that it's my stepping stone into the future of agriculture. Thank you. And now a delegate from Delaware will speak.
Hi, my name is Alex Swan. I'm from Newark, Delaware. I've been in 4-H for 9 years now. Newark is located in Newcastle County, which is very limited on farm space. And with the limit on farm space, it's very hard to have farms and an agricultural view in Newcastle. So I've had the amazing opportunity to raise market lambs and breed lambs for 6 years now. But due to space left on my small family farm, I do not have the ability to grow my flock by much more. Although I am fortunate to have a farm and be a part of agriculture in Delaware, there are many people in Delaware who do not get that same experience. Many people in Delaware couldn't even tell you anything about agriculture or where their food came from. So, Newcastle County is teaming up with a local creamery called Woodside Creamery and having a day on the farm. It's an opportunity for people all in Newcastle County to just come and see what farmers do, what it's like to have a dairy farm. And not only a dairy farm, we're inviting other businesses in agriculture to come and speak to the people and teach them and inform them of where their food comes from, how it's produced, and other amazing things that agriculture has to offer for us. And that's our goal in Newcastle County, is to try to teach the people in the city that agriculture isn't just like stinky farm animals, and that it's so much more, and that's a necessity for life. Now our delegate from California will speak.
My name is Gabriella Gurman. I'm from Sirius, California. I've been a 4-H member for 9 years, and I've loved every moment of it. I lived in a dairy farm my grandfather started in Central California for my whole life. Being immersed in the agriculture industry through the dairy business has developed in me a passion for the industry and for its promotion. Even though I live in a primarily agricultural community, I was still stunned by the lack of awareness among my peers in youth and teens. My family since then has hosted school visits to our dairy for elementary school children, and I have presented at a local elementary school career days, speaking about the dairy industry and agriculture as a whole. Through this, I've learned the importance of informing people about agriculture while they're young, so as to cultivate early understanding and support, bridging the gap between consumers and producers. Now, a delegate from Illinois will speak.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Mr. Chairman. We're all very excited to be here. My name is Jill Parent, and I am from Normal, Illinois. I'm a 10-year 4-H member, and I've been in 4-H involved in it throughout my entire life. My grandparents, mom, aunts, uncles, and cousins have all been involved for 4-H for 3 generations now, so 4-H has always been a family affair. I view agriculture through several lenses, as I live in town, yet my mother's family owns and operates a ranch and a farm, so that it's been in our family for 4 generations. My immediate family is also very involved with the local agritainment pumpkin farm. The pumpkin farm is a fall destination for much of our urban population. It focuses on teaching guests about agriculture through activities and entertainment while working with family memories in the fall. For the 7 weeks we are open, over 36,000 patrons come to our farm. We expose them on how plants grow, and then the animals, their behaviors, and the many jobs a farmer has to do and must do. And nearly every activity available is connected to agriculture in some way, so we are bridging that gap. School-age students come to our farm to experience a taste of agriculture they wouldn't have had the opportunity to experience otherwise. In our 2014 season, we had the opportunity to teach over 5,000 students about agriculture using agritainment. We teach them many aspects of agriculture. So, for example, we introduce them to 8 different field crops that are often grown in Illinois. They get to see the plants, feel the plants, and they also get to see where they come from. The students get to pick their own pumpkin, learning how the pumpkin grows, from the pollination to the bee keeping to even how they are grown. They also learn about the many bushels of corn produced in Illinois specifically, and touch and feel the ear of corn. And some of our favorite sports drinks and even fireworks are made using corn. And almost every product on the McDonald's menu uses corn. I have a passion and a desire to teach the public about agriculture through agritainment that excites them while keeping them interested in the lessons that we teach them. If I have the opportunity to impact 20 kids, that's 20 kids that know more about agriculture than they would have without us. Thank you. And now a delegate from Indiana will speak.
Hi, my name is Shelby Neerman. I have grown up on a small dairy farm in Brownstown, Indiana, where I have been involved in the 4-H program for 10 years. Living in a rural area, I am surrounded by agriculture. My parents and grandparents have instilled in me the value of 4-H, and because of that, I have had numerous opportunities to meet people from across the United States. A few years ago, I was given the opportunity to be a part of the first Indiana 4-H Dairy Youth Academy. This experience brought together 14 youth from across Indiana with an interest in the agriculture industry. We were able to visit farms across Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, and even Canada. Through this experience, even with an agriculture background, I was surprised with the different ways that farmers manage their operations. If you ask a farmer what he would do if he wasn't in this industry, he will more than likely say he hasn't thought of doing anything else. It is important to understand that farmers are passionate about their jobs in the agriculture industry. This select group would not have the incentive to complete the hard work of their job without passion and dedication. The opportunities I have had allow me to not only share my story, but accept the diverse backgrounds of others. Programs such as 4-H are essential in bridging the gap between rural and urban areas. The 4-H program brings together youth with individual experiences, passions, and beliefs. To bridge the gap between rural and urban perspectives of agriculture, producers and consumers can find a common interest through the 4-H program. We have the opportunity to hear opinions of consumers through 4-H, and because of this, we can improve, innovate, and learn from each other. Now a delegate from Rhode Island will speak.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Foster, and I am from Rhode Island. I have been involved in 4-H for about 6 years now. Unlike most of my fellow delegates, I did not grow up with too much agriculture in my life. Sure, my dad is a milk truck driver, and his family members are all farmers, but other than that, I had no connection with that way of life. My mom grew up in a city where her idea of a major farm was an apple orchard. On the other hand, my dad grew up with a farm and was very involved with 4-H and FFA. With that being said, I was always preached by my mom that farms are gross, dirty, and smelly. It wasn't until I was 10 years old when I caught my first glimpse of what 4-H was. My dad took me to a local fair to watch my very first dairy show. I remember how excited my dad was to show me this part of his childhood, and for him telling me if this was something I wanted to do, I could. Watching my first show changed my look on agriculture. Now the tough part would be to get my mom to have a change of heart like I did. My mom eventually gave in and let me join, but she wasn't 100% on board with the idea. So that year, I joined 4-H and worked hard with my dad to prepare my animal. When fair season comes along, my mom did come as a support, but kept her distance from the cows. She liked to spend her time at the fluffy rabbits' cages. When she found out that these fluffy rabbits were also a part of 4-H, she took this as her way to accept 4-H better. Since then, we have had many rabbits. At one point, we were even caring for 50. Even though we've had many rabbits, I've never actually had a cow of my own. As the years have gone by, I've gotten more and more involved with 4-H and with dairy cows, and my sisters have also joined my club with dairy projects. This made it so my mom learned more about agriculture, and she started to accept this way of life, and 6 years later, I'm actually getting a cow of my own. My experience of coming from a family with both urban and rural backgrounds has given me the opportunity to be my own bridge within my family. Now a delegate from Connecticut will speak.
Hello, my name is Danielle Brazo, and I'm from Storrs, Connecticut. This is my 6th year in 4-H. Growing up in a suburban area, I've developed an appreciation for agriculture and farmers through 4-H. My 4-H animal projects have included horses, goats, rabbits, and chickens. I have learned that it doesn't matter how you feel or what the weather is like. The animals still need to be fed, watered, and cared for. This is something I feel many people in my community do not understand, that the animals do not just sit there and take care of themselves. Raising livestock is a huge commitment and a lot of hard work. I was given 3 chickens by somebody in my local community that loved the idea of having fresh eggs laid by their own backyard chickens. But once they got the chickens, they realized that they weren't up for the work involved. I, and along with many others involved with animal husbandry, have a great passion for what we do. And in my local 4-H and FFA, we attend public events to educate the public about our agricultural-related projects and all the hard work that goes into them. We want them to understand not only where their food comes from, but how it's produced. It is also important to educate the youth about agriculture because they are the next generation of consumers. If they know more about where their food comes from and how it is produced, it will be the next step in helping to bridge the gap between the consumer and the producer. Thank you. Now a delegate from California will speak.
Hi, my name is Colton Searcy, and this is my 10th year in 4-H, and I live in Portable, California. I live in the largest agriculture-producing county in the nation, but I have no agriculture background. 4-H and school field trips have taught me everything I know about agriculture. Being in the county that I live in, the drought has affected the way I live. 4 years of below-average rainfall has caused the wells on the east side of Porterville to completely dry up. Portable showers, portable toilets, and bottled water are a necessity. Governor Brown has just imposed a 25% restriction on water throughout the state. But how are you supposed to restrict water if we don't have any? If we build water infrastructures and contain the water, we will revive the local economy from all the loss of crops. Even with the water restrictions, we would need 11 trillion gallons of water. That equates to the amount of water Niagara Falls puts out in about 150 days. If we work together with agriculture and urban areas, we can make the best of the drought. Thank you. Now a delegate from Minnesota will speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Hasbargen, and I live on a family-operated farm in the Red River Valley of Minnesota. When I was 6 years old, I began to show livestock in 4-H, and this is my 13th year being an active 4-H'er. Today, I would like to talk about the future of agriculture, and I will start by comparing the United States to other countries around the world. By 2050, the world's population is projected to reach 9.1 billion, which is 34% higher than it is today. As you can see in this table, the percentage of people who farm in Africa is 65%, whereas in the United States, only 1% of the population is directly involved in the production of agriculture. This is very interesting when looking at the next comparison, which is the cost of food as a percentage of disposable income. Consumers in the United States spend less than 10% of their disposable income on food, while their African counterparts spend approximately 70%. We face a number of challenges internationally as producers, including sustaining global food security. However, there are also domestic challenges. Some of the major issues include consumer perceptions of biotechnology, food safety and labeling, and pesticide use. When you take these technological advances and innovations away from the farmers, you decrease production levels while increasing prices. We need to remember that as agriculture producers, we are working to feed the masses and further improve agriculture practices. U.S. ethanol production has increased rapidly since 2006. The expansion in the domestic ethanol production has been one of the main drivers of the corn market. During the super cycle of agriculture, corn reached a high of $8 per bushel in the Red River Valley, and soybeans soared to $18. As farmers, we took our profits from the high prices of the cycle and invested them by pattern tiling 50% of our land, updating our crop drying systems to add efficiency and reduce cost. We also use GPS and precision guidance technology on all of our tillage, spray, planting, and harvesting equipment to reduce costs by eliminating overlap. Our operation has integrated this into field mapping with yield and fertility that allows us to variable rate seed and fertilize, which saves up to 25% on costs. These innovations have been made by the majority of farmers in our area and should leave us in good condition to weather the period of low prices that we now find ourselves in due to the downturn of the cycle. The super cycle has shifted paradigms of agriculture and rural America, creating challenges, chaos, and opportunity, which will be influenced by the policies made in this room. So, will we face a situation like other developing countries where a higher percentage of our disposable income is used to feed the nation? Or will we allow technological advances to continue to infiltrate the agriculture industry? Now, a delegate from Wyoming will speak.
Hi, my name is Brooke Weibel. I'm from Burns, Wyoming, which is about 25-30 miles east of Cheyenne. I have been an active 4-H member for 10 years now, and I've been in FFA for 5 years. I do a variety of projects in 4-H. For example, I've done shooting, sports, photography, and as well as other static exhibits. My main project, however, is pigs. I've shown market pigs for about 8 years. My parents both grew up on farms and ranches, and they both bred their own pigs. And so when we joined 4-H, my sister and I, they got us pigs to see if it was something we wanted to pursue even further. And they were right. My sister and I loved having and showing pigs. We have shown at pigs every year, but we haven't really done much else with them. This year, however, we talked about trying to breed them. My parents both bred their pigs when they were in 4-H and FFA, like I said previously. And then a couple years ago, my sister had a really nice gilt, and we decided that we were going to breed her. But unfortunately, the gilt had gotten sick, and so we had to put her down. We haven't really talked about it since then until this year. We have a lot of things to think about when we're trying to decide this, such as whether or not we will AI the pigs or if we will find a boar and take that route. We live on a 40-acre farm, but we don't really have any crops. We just mainly have animals, so we can't really make our own feed like other farmers do. So it will be expensive to buy feed and other equipment for this project. But the other obstacle we are trying to work through is that we really don't have any facilities on our property to efficiently do this. This being said, in the Burns community, there are several pig breeders, and so we have the option of maybe using some of their facilities or having them help us out in our first couple of years. The biggest obstacle, however, is having someone available to feed the pigs all the time, because my family and I are very active and we are gone quite a bit. But though there are many obstacles, I know my family can overcome them, and it makes me excited to even think about getting up in the morning and hanging out with the piglets. My future in agriculture is breeding pigs and having more facilities at my house to be able to do it on my own. Thank you. Now a delegate from Colorado will speak.
Hello, my name is Wade Hoffmeister, and I am from a small family-owned farm from Colorado. Our main crop that we grow is alfalfa that we use to feed our animals. Using this method, we have reduced the cost that we would spend on buying hay from auctions or other sources. This method has also helped making our feed processes faster. The main problem that we have faced, though, with growing alfalfa is the infestation of insects. This is a problem because the quality and quantity of the crop is diminished. Also, it needs a sufficient amount of water for the plant to thrive from. It also must be plowed up ideally every 5 years because it is not provided well as it ages. Growing this crop has helped my family and I through tough times and has provided food for my animals in 4-H. Now a delegate from Nevada will speak.
Hi, my name is Garrett Tamara and I am from Nevada. I have been in 4-H for 10 years now, and I'm also a 6th generation rancher of northern Nevada. My family has been ranching for more than 150 years. Over the past years, my family has noticed that the relationship between the producer and the consumer has been growing apart. My mom, Christy Tamara, and I started researching how to connect with the consumer. We found out that in one of the southern states, they have an app called the Meet Your Farmer in their grocery store. This app allows them to virtually meet the producer through a video that tells them about how the food got from the farm to the store. One way we educate our community in our county is that we bring ag in the classroom to the middle school. We bring livestock from all over the county and tell the kids about the animals' byproducts and how they're made. Now a delegate from Idaho will speak.
Hi, my name is Tyler Bassett from Bear Lake, Idaho. I have been in 4-H for 6 years and counting. In my little school, students have the option of taking ag classes. A decent amount of students take these classes, but more for a free period than to actually learn and better themselves. It is not that my teacher doesn't teach them, because he does, and I believe that he does a really good job at it. It is that my generation has no interest in agriculture and does not care. They have no real respect for it. I have this image in my mind that if this continues, my generation's level of using and understanding agriculture will drop dramatically. This could, in turn, change the outcome of students that go into the field of agriculture to produce the things we need for everyday life. I believe that if we include more activities involving outdoor agriculture opportunities, that students that might not have an interest in agriculture will find that as an extremely interesting and useful tool. Students will then respect it more and will want it in their daily lives. If more students find interest in agriculture, then they may go into it as a career, which will in turn increase production of required products. I find it very important that this happens and that agriculture is not forgotten about in my or any generation. Now, a delegate from Missouri will speak.
Hello, my name is Darby Schmidt and I'm from Defiance, Missouri. I've been a 4-H member for 10 years. I've grown up in a small town outside of St. Louis, Missouri, but I've attended a large suburban school my entire life. There's a decreasing number of farms in my community, and little to no students know about agriculture, and there's no agriculture courses available at my school. As a 4-H project, I started raising and showing boar goats. 4-H was my gateway to agriculture. I've had many opportunities to see firsthand the public's misconception of today's agriculture. Most of my classmates have no idea where their food comes from and have a lack of knowledge of today's modern agriculture. When my friends come over to my house, they're very interested to learn about how their food is raised. They don't understand how livestock is fed and watered every day. They also don't understand how when livestock is sick, medication is required. I believe that it is important to teach the importance of modern agriculture in today's schools. To improve the future of agriculture, we must educate our youth consumers. Everyone eats, so it is important for everyone to learn about where their food comes from. Through advocating in my school and being a member of the 4-H program, I've decided to pursue a degree in agribusiness and be a part of the future of agriculture. Now, a delegate from Maine will speak.
Hello, my name is Shane Schofield. I am from Waldo County, Maine. I do not personally live on a farm, but agriculture is a huge part of my life. I've been in 4-H for 10 years, and in this time I have shown sheep, goats, pigs, and I currently show dairy cows. My school is divided into 2 groups, kids with an agriculture background and the kids with little to no agriculture background. I personally have an agriculture background. I spend most of my summers showing cows at fairs and at my uncle's farm taking care of the animals. A lot of the kids at my school with little to no agriculture background don't understand the amount of effort that is put into taking care of the animals. Waking up early to get chores done before breakfast, and we start chores around 3 so we can get done at a decent hour. I believe if we had a special day for agriculture awareness where people could go to a farm near them and see where their food comes from and how the food is raised and the amount of effort that is put into raising and taking care of the animals would really really help people respect farmers and ranchers more. Now a delegate from Colorado will speak.
Hello, my name is Jenny Golduff. I am 17 years old, and I have been a 4-H member for just about 13 years now. I am a supporter of the biotech crops, mainly because these crops can help protect our resources. These modified crops actually use less fuel, help water efficiency, reduce spray uses, and give farmers better harvest per acre. When I was a little girl, a large F2, F3 tornado ripped through my little farm town in Minnesota. A lot of buildings were destroyed, but what was worse was the harvest that fall. My little town mainly harvested soybeans and corn, and most of our harvests were destroyed in that Mayday tornado. When I found out about the biotech crops a few years later, I was amazed. Just imagine traits and such being added to corn and other crops so that they could have stronger stalks and not be as easily destroyed in storms. Better harvests and less resources used to help feed the future generations. That's what we need to be thinking about right now, not just for the present farmers, but for the future farmers and the future generations, like my fellow delegates and myself, who are the next generation of farmers and consumers. Thank you.
Now a delegate from Texas will speak.
Hello. Okay. Sorry for that. Hello, my name is Mara Winters. Located in Central Texas, I live in a large urban and rural community. My 4-H involvement spans 9 years so far. Within that urban setting, it amazes me that the lack of awareness many citizens in the community have. When asked, where does your food come from, many consumers will respond, the grocery store, or I don't know. 4-H is a program that has allowed me to help reverse this loss of knowledge and teach some of the essential skills learned through agriculture. Agriculture has immensely benefited from great technological advancements. However, these advancements are slowly becoming dysfunctional and damaging. Within the production of livestock, many popular technologies such as artificial insemination, in vitro, and flushing help the producer to turn out healthier and larger yields of their product. Now, don't get me wrong, these technologies do have their perks, but their cons have a much larger impact on the future of agriculture. When producers take these advances to the extreme, scary things can happen. The loss of diversity in genetic pools when producers breed for certain traits leads to the loss of immunities, genetic mutations, and congenital defects. My best example of genetic diversity lives in my barn. I have a 10-year-old, 300-pound mutt of a goat. Hash Brown, in the picture, was my very first 4-H project. From bottle baby to a vertical 8-foot-tall goat on his back hooves. This genetic mashup has never gone down due to illness. His only breeding, his only medication is the monthly worming and an occasional booster shot. His diversity in breeding has aided him in being an extremely healthy livestock example. Thank you for your time and this opportunity to be the youth voice of agriculture. We'll see you all in the barn, and the floor is now open to questions.
Thank you to all the participants. If I could ask Shannon, can you come up here? I got to give you something. I talked to your member of Congress on the floor, and he wanted me to give you his card. New member Bruce Poliquin. Here, come on right up here this way. And Colton, Kevin McCarthy said hello. All right. All right, and I don't think it's hey, thank you. I don't think it's lost on the committee that the presentation started with a Texan and ended with a Texan too. Only on the House Ag Committee. First off, before we get to the questions, I'd like to thank some of the folks that are with you today. Dr. Lisa Loxman, the Director of the Division of Youth and 4-H at USDA, right here in Washington, D.C. Thank you, Dr. Loxman. Shelby Maresca, National 4-H Conference Roundtable Facilitator at, of all places, Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas. I also want to say thank you to a few of the chaperones, Teresa Bishop from Missouri, Craven Hudson from Georgia, Tamara McCoy from Texas, Brian C. from Arkansas, and Cassie Turner from Ohio. So thank you all very, very much. I'd like to begin the questionings. I can always ask my questions later, so I'll defer to the other members. Chairman Conaway, you're first on the list.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank each of you for being here today. In my opening remarks, I mentioned this idea about trying to create a urban-rural coalition to help us pass the next farm bill, and little did I realize what terrific spokesmen were already in the works for helping make that happen. So the problem we've got is that we have to tell our story over and over and over. And after you've done it a zillion times and you're about to throw up about it, you have to tell it 4 or 5 more times, and you'll finally break through to the folks that really need to make this happen, because our folks in urban America, as I mentioned earlier, benefit from the low prices that they pay, and it's in their self-interest that we have a strong production agriculture. So thank you for being those great spokesmen. I'm going to pick on the Texans. Mara, you seem very poised and polished as a speaker. Can you talk to us a little bit about your 4-H experience, and were you already this poised and polished a speaker before you came?
I actually have been able to collect a very polished skill set with speaking in my last couple of years of high school. As a young 4-H'er, I was very shy and always curious about it, but I never wanted to approach anyone and try and learn about it. So my speaking has really grown in skills as I've grown in confidence. So I really love educating people about my species and about the things that I'm passionate about. And with that poised and polishedness, I guess I can always thank my grandmother for that.
Nothing like good genetics, right? Harley, can you talk to us a little about your, I think you're going to plan to major in agriculture economics in college. Can you talk to us about how your experience owning and marketing cattle has given you some grassroots experience that you'll use when you go to college?
Okay, skills that I've learned with owning my business and having all the cattle I have, I've learned making connections is very useful. Everywhere you go, you need to make a great first impression because you never know who you're meeting. And traveling around promoting the beef industry, going to shows, going all over the nation has taught me that I need to make a great first impression because whenever I go to college, whenever I'm going to business because I want to major in agriculture business, I need to make an impression because who knows in the future when I own my own business, I don't know, maybe I met one of those kids when I was in college. So making a first impression is something I've learned is very useful.
All right. I can't remember which one of you had the fluffy rabbits. All right. What was the ultimate goal of the fluffy rabbits? Did you sell them into the meat market or did you sell them for pets?
We sell our rabbits for pets.
Okay. I was just wondering, your mom, did she realize that when you do sell them for meat, that that has a different outcome?
Yeah, she doesn't really like that idea.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for what you do. Look forward to the future of production agriculture. It appears to be in great hands. You're wonderful examples and ambassadors for that effort. And keep up the good work. And look forward to your future leadership in this industry. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Conway. The chair now recognizes the representative from Florida, Ms. Graham, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I came in a little bit late, but it's just so wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's so wonderful to see so many terrific young people representing the agriculture industry. And I thank each of you for being here today. And not to go back to the fluffy rabbits, but are they Angora rabbits? I guess we are going back to the fluffy rabbits, but...
We have a variety of different rabbits. We go from Holland Locks, Lion Heads, Mini Rexes, Cans, and English Locks.
And where are you from? I'm sorry, I don't know.
I'm from Rhode Island.
Oh, okay. I'm interested in getting a rabbit, so maybe we can talk afterwards. But I have grown up. My family was in the dairy cattle business, and now we're in the beef cattle business, and pecans and timber, and so I'm just interested. I mean, what about being in agriculture? And this is for anyone who wishes to answer. What is most rewarding for you, being involved in agriculture?
Being involved in agriculture, it's very rewarding to see that you raised a lamb, any type of livestock you have, whatever you have. It's so rewarding to see that you raised that small little livestock, whatever breed it might be, to see what it has become and see what your flock or whatever you have has increased so immensely and is so much better than when you first started out with that little market lamb or little heifer or whatever you started with.
That's great. Does anyone else want to answer? Yes.
I believe that the most rewarding part of being a part of the agriculture industry is the people and how everyone is working together for a common goal of feeding the world, and that everyone really cares about the industry and is doing the job because they love it.
That's great. Well, again, just thank you all for being here, and I know our future is in just terrific hands. So I don't know how much more time you have here in Washington, but I hope you all enjoy your time very much. Thank you again. Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.
The gentlelady from Florida yields back the balance of her time. The gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Molinar, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I want to thank all of you for testifying today and sharing your stories with us. And I wanted to, there were a few questions I had for you. One is, if someone could help me understand the similarities and differences between 4-H and FFA, because I have FFA and 4-H throughout, and kids are involved in learning great things, and no one's really ever explained to me the similarities and differences.
All right, well, I am a 4-H member for about 13 years now, and my family's also been involved in FFAs. I tried to get in it since I was in like 6th grade, but that didn't work, obviously. So, well, the differences are, well, start with similarities, actually. Everyone's so amazing. There's a ton of leadership opportunities, like coming to Washington, D.C. like this, and there's differences, though. Like, we both show animals, but we don't show necessarily the same type of way. And there's also, like, 4-H, you get to do more projects. So there's a lot of different opportunities and skill sets that go with FFA and 4-H, so.
Does one occur more in the school system and one is more extracurricular?
Be my guest, guys.
Okay, so 4-H is an out-of-school thing. FFA is in school, and it's divided into 2 sections, SAEs and CDEs, and that's not how 4-H is. 4-H is a broad spectrum, and it's all out of school. You can do, there's a lot more opportunities, I think, in 4-H, because there's a much more wider range of opportunities that you have. You can do all kinds of things in 4-H, like shooting sports, you show livestock, but you do that in FFA too, but you can't. In FFA, it's really combined into 2 things, CDs and SAEs, and they're in different seasons, and that's not, okay, hold on.
Do you get school credit for either one?
No, FFA is extracurricular, and 4-H is strictly out of school. You can be homeschooled and do FFA, or at 4-H.
Well, thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask you, many of you mentioned there's a disconnect between people who are involved in agriculture and growing our food, and then people who may not have that same understanding. If there were maybe 2 or 3 misconceptions that you've sort of identified that we should all be working on clarifying and helping people understand better, based on your experience, what would some of those things be?
I think that the biggest misconception is that people do not know where their food is coming from, and I think that something needs to be done through education to teach consumers where their food is coming from.
Another misconception that I've noticed is that the animal rights and the cruelty issue. We were watching a couple days ago in our roundtable a commercial from Chipotle, which had a scarecrow who was a farmer going around his town, and he saw the different types of animals and the behind the scenes of what farmers really do that he thought. And so it showed chickens being plumped up, cows being shut into dark corners and hooked up to machines. And I think people really need to understand that there's no reason why farmers would be cruel to their animals. Granted, there is that small percentage that are, and that's where those videos and that information comes from, but that is really only a small percentage. The rest of farmers, and if you think of it from an economic sense, a farmer wouldn't make money if his animal isn't treated right, if his animal isn't the most comfortable it is. And I know, since I grew up on a dairy, my father is always working to make sure that the animals' pens are clean and that they're the most comfortable they can be, so that we, in an economic way, can get the most yield that we can. So I think people really need to see that farmers are not evil. We're not trying to get them, out to hoodwink them or trick them, and we're not trying to beat our animals.
If I could add on, I think One of the larger misconceptions about agriculture that people don't understand is that agriculture is not just animals. Agriculture is not just farming. Agriculture controls our clothing industries. Agriculture controls majority of our food, controls the land, controls the animals. Agriculture is spread throughout our nations and everything. It's not just about the animals and production of livestock. So I think that if consumers really did grasp that they would be more involved in really educating everyone and getting agriculture back to the numbers that it should be.
All right, the gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. McGovern, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you for holding this hearing today, and this is an incredibly impressive panel. Everyone who spoke has been unbelievably eloquent and passionate. And I really appreciate your strong feelings about farming and about agriculture. People. I was visited a farm in Massachusetts, and a reporter asked the farmer, "What's the difference between being a farmer and being a congressman?" And he said, "Well, being a congressman, sometimes you work all day and accomplish nothing. But farmers, every day, produce something. And it's what I've come to appreciate is it's hard work. Whereas we get vacations and can go away and not have to worry about anything for a few days at a time. If you're a farmer, every single day, you got to worry about whether it's your crops or whether you're raising cattle or, whatever it is. I mean, every day you have to make sure everything is taken care of. And I appreciate the fact that there are people here from Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Maine, because sometimes people don't realize that some really important agriculture goes on in the Northeast. And so maybe I'll ask Danielle no one's from Massachusetts here. But maybe you locked them in the hotel room. But I would ask Danielle from Connecticut, why do you think agriculture education is important, and how do you think fairs help educate others about agriculture?
I think that agriculture education is very important so that people do not have these misconceptions that we've previously talked about, and that it's also important to educate the youth because they're our next generation of agriculturists along with consumers. And if they are educated from a young age, that will prevent having the misconceptions of them when they're older and more in the consumer market. Also, fairs are very important because it's a great way for people to enjoy learning about agriculture and seeing what us farmers do and all the hard work that goes into our projects as well as the final product.
I appreciate it. Shannon, let me ask you from Maine. Can you tell us about your involvement in 4-H and how it has shaped you, and also how can you advocate for agriculture through showing dairy cattle?
Well, I think that 4-H has shaped me in a way that without 4-H, I don't think I would be as responsible as I am, because it has taught me how to treat people better, how to be a better person in the community, how to help my community in any way that I can, and to just treat everyone better. And I think that I can be a good advocate of agriculture with showing animals in a way that when you come to a state fair in Maine, a lot of the people like to come to the fair to see our animals and just see how we treat our animals, because we make it a little more fun than just the rides and the food in the midway. And I think that bringing the animals to the fair, it can help younger people and older people learn more about the animals and where their food comes from.
Well, again, I appreciate all of you being here today, and I think you're educating not only us, but you're educating some of your other students, if you will, about the importance of agriculture. You can live without a lot of things, but you can't live without food, and we can't get food without agriculture and farmers. So I appreciate very much you being here, and I wish you all the very best of luck. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Peterson. But before I do, I want to let you know one of your constituents on the far end and the left seated, Hannah, is here today and did an excellent job representing your district and remembering that you were her congressman.
Well, I just met with her at quarter to 1, so hopefully Had a chance to meet with her a little bit before the hearing kicked off, and I think it's fair to say that she's a tremendous representative of 4-H. For those that don't know, I'm a 4-H kid. I remember going to 4-H when I was, 7, 8 years old, and they made me get up and talk in front of the group, and I about had a heart attack and passed out, because I was so scared. So that 4-H had a lot to do with me developing into what I've done later in life. And reading Hannah's biography here, she got grand champion at the state fair in her beef project. I only got reserve champion, so. But, we very much appreciate 4-H, those of us that represent rural America and what it does for the youth of this country, but also what the youth of this country does for us. And so I've got a couple questions for Hannah. I went to college and double majored in accounting and business, and apparently you've decided to do a double major in accounting and international agriculture marketing. So how did your background in agriculture help you decide to do this?
I can remember being 2 and 3 and my dad taking me out in the tractor with him all day long, and it was just something that I grew up absolutely loving, and 4-H gave me the opportunity to expand on this and kind of broaden my horizons and see a little bit more of the industry, especially being out here on this trip. It's just been absolutely fantastic to see all the different views of, agriculture from different states. I totally was not aware of the agriculture in Maine and how it differed, from Minnesota. And so I really think that my background and wanting to be part of the family industry and keep agriculture going has really propelled me to go into the international ag marketing. And I want to stay on more the business side of it and keep my fellow, my classmates who are going into agriculture and plan on staying in the area. I want to help them keep their businesses very profitable and able to pass on to the next generation.
Thank you. And Chairman Conaway is here, and he and I are both CPAs. The first time, I think, that in history that the committee has been led by 2 CPAs. Am I right about that, Mike?
I can't imagine it's ever happened before. So few of us get to make it all this way.
So you better watch out. You get your CPA and you never know what might happen. So what are you most passionate about in agriculture, and how do you convey this to others?
Oh gosh, I would say I'm most passionate about, like I said, the marketing and finances side of it. I went to a marketing seminar by Dr. David Cole from Virginia Tech the other week, and it was absolutely fascinating. I was enthralled for the entire speech, and I realized that this is something that I really, really want to pursue, and I want to be able to help my father and on our farm to become more profitable. I want to help my neighbors and my classmates and everyone to just really understand, what we can do and where we can go with agriculture. It's so much more than just planting. It's just as sophisticated as so many other industries, and that's forgotten a lot of the time. But right now, how I convey this is by being interested in asking questions and attending seminars. I'm not really at the teaching stage, but I hope after college I will be.
Well, thank you. And thank you very much for your passionate interest in agriculture, and all of you for being here and sharing your time and your stories with us and other members of Congress. Hannah comes from a fairly large county that has a small population. It's one of the premier agriculture production areas in Minnesota. And I had a chance last fall to go to the Traverse County Fair, which is where she's from. And I do this in quite a few counties, but I had an opportunity to buy a couple animals at the 4-H auction and help do what I could to support 4-H, and we do that around our district quite a bit. So thank all of you for being here and what you do, and I yield back.
Ranking member, Mr. Peterson, yields back the balance of his time. We've gone through the first round of questions. I'll take my opportunity now as chairman to follow up myself with a few of my own. First off, give me a show of hands. Who of you wants to be a member of Congress someday? Of course, the one that could run against me. Jill, I am in trouble. You should have seen her give her presentation earlier. As for my colleagues who weren't here yet, Jill Parent is my constituent from Normal, Illinois. And yes, I'm not a CPA, but I represent Normal. Jill is what year are you at Normal West? I'm a junior at Normal West Community High School. High school I visited not too long ago, and obviously doing a great job with 4-H. And Jill, while I've got you there, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, get you ready for being a member of Congress someday, and I hope you do. And before we move on, I do want to tell each and every one of you, all of us were no different than you when we were your age. I probably wouldn't have raised my hand if I was asked to be a member of Congress. But the confidence that all of you have demonstrated today, sitting in front of us, is something you can put on your resume as someone who testified in front of a congressional subcommittee. Now, the popularity rating of Congress, you may not want to, but it's a privilege for you to be able to be here, and it's a privilege for us to be able to hear from you. So remember, no matter what you decide to do in life, whether it's to stay within the ag industry, whether it's to grow, make sure you have a few more hash browns in your stables, but just continue to take the lessons that you've learned in 4-H and be a leader. Continue to grow in what your interest is, and who knows, one day, hopefully you'll tap one of us on the shoulder on the floor of the House and say, hey, you may not remember me, but I was at your subcommittee hearing a few years ago. That would be the biggest privilege I think all of us as current members of Congress could and should have. So now I get to pick on you, Jill. I want to make sure I ask you a couple questions, and I know within your 4-H career you focused on food, nutrition, and health. Can you tell us why?
I've always loved to bake and to cook. My grandma's always taught me, but especially 3 years ago is when it truly got started. My 90-year-old grandma taught me to bake yeast breads, and so throughout that process, a 90-year-old being able to teach me makes me, it's one of the coolest things ever, because I know where my bread came from, and it's actually better than the store-bought. I do have to say, not to brag, but I just really enjoy being able to bake and to do all of that sort of thing. I like to know where my food comes from, so again, going back to the agricultural perspective, I know that my yeast that I use in my yeast breads is coming from just even our farm or our ranch in general. But I really enjoy the nutrition side of it as well, because I really have a desire for the community and even the nation to be healthy. So I truly enjoy being able to combine those speech, ag, and nutrition type of things together to even create it into going into food, nutrition, and health.
Well, thank you. The next time I'm in Normal, maybe I can taste test that, and I'll make sure we'll let everybody know. Thank you. I love that 4-H's themes, one of them is 4-H grows confidence. From your experience, Jill, how did 4-H contribute to your confidence and your leadership skills?
Well, I've always been one of those kind of outgoing type of kids that always jumped right into it ever since I was really young. But 4-H has truly taught me about how to go and get it. So for example, I had the desire to be on our youth leadership team for the state, and so I've worked hard since I was 8 years old, doing all of my projects, doing all of my records for our state, and whenever I was finally old enough to apply to be on our state youth leadership team, I jumped on it. It was truly one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and now I have the opportunity to serve our state as well through 4-H. But 4-H has really taught me a lot of skills, from confidence to public speaking, to even just baking, electricity, woodworking in general. It's one of those programs that nothing else can compare, and I wouldn't ever want to switch any of my lives or go to any other program.
Excellent, thank you. Oh, I know. And one last question for you, because we live in Central Illinois, what lessons can you take back from your 4-H conference here in Washington back to our home? in Central Illinois?
Well, something I know I can take back is that working with this diverse group of kids from all across the entire nation, I can go back and say, this is what it's like, this is how they live their lives, and this is how we can compare and even make our lives better. So for example, we were talking about grocery stores on the way here, what we have versus what they don't have, and I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And so just being able to go back and say, this is what they have versus what we don't have, or even just different foods that they eat that we don't eat, going back and taking that to our community. But also specifically in our 4-H program, we have we specifically have a Speaking for Illinois 4-H program, whereas other people have like conferences for 4-H for their high schoolers. So I would love to be able to implement that back in Bloomington Normal to take and retain that number of older 4-Hers.
Well, thank you, Jill, and I want to thank everybody again. Does anybody have any, this is the end of the hearing, does anybody have any comments you'd like to make that we would, that you'd like to say on any subject? Seeing none. We have one?
I just would love to say that it was a privilege getting to do this and having the opportunity, especially just hearing all the open-minded ideas that were expressed within this roundtable and all the people that I got to meet and talk to and understand the industry in different states. It just was such a privilege, and it was really amazing and eye-opening, and these are lifelong friends that I will never be able to forget, and this is an opportunity that I probably will never get again. So I just wanted to say thank you, and that this was amazing.
Well, thank you, and don't say, never say never. You could get another opportunity to sit on that side, or as I said earlier, and I think all of us who are here today truly believe that there's no reason why all of you couldn't be representatives, or if you really wanted to go to the House of Lords, I mean, if you want to take a demotion, you could be senator too. But be confident and go back to your communities and talk about what you learned here. Talk about the process, about what Washington's like and what you were able to do. Go back and continue to be leaders. We started this hearing by talking about how we need an urban-rural coalition to continue to have good, cost-effective farm policy in this country. And we need you to go back to your communities and remind them all that we need both sides of the aisle, coast to coast, urban and rural, to make sure that we continue to move projects forward. Now, as a closing statement, I just want to say thank you again as somebody who grew up in a very small town, who had agriculture all around them. I had no idea what the difference was between a planter and a combine until I got into public policy. Now we're tasked with sitting in this House Ag Committee coming up with farm policy. And it's exactly what many of you in your comments said about your experience in agriculture. You truly are the future of agriculture and the future of ag leadership, and run with that. Help us to help you and to help your industry. With that, I would like to add that under the rules of the committee, the record of today's hearing will remain open for 10 calendar days to receive additional material and supplementary written responses from the witnesses to any questions posed by a member. The Subcommittee on Biotechnology, Horticulture, and Research hearing is now adjourned.